We have new glimpses of Digital Circus Episode 9, and our new first look at Episode 9 includes 3 early leaks and spoilers. It all started with a full audio from the episode that reached us early, where supposedly 2 characters have a conversation during a part of the chapter. The original post found on TikTok said, "This leaked Episode 9 audio might be real." In that audio, we hear Kinger say, "Don't worry about me, I'll be fine." Then, another character that many Digital Circus fans believe could be Ribbit responds, "Thank you." And here comes something important. That character calls Kinger by his real name, the same one that was revealed earlier in the Episode 8 computer scene. But how do we know if this spoiler is real or not? Well, besides the fact that the name heard perfectly matches what was already confirmed in the series, there is another key detail: the event described in the audio. In that snippet, basically, Kinger gets left behind in the Digital Circus, meaning he stays trapped forever while the others manage to escape. And that drew a lot of attention because it seems like an important moment. However, we already had previous information from one of the series' voice actors, specifically Kane's actor, who said the ending of Episode 9 would be unpredictable. That means a typical scene, like a sacrifice so everyone else can escape, probably doesn't fit with the real story. So this first spoiler starts to look doubtful, but the next spoiler does align more with what we might expect. Information was also leaked from an updated list for the final Digital Circus movie, revealing some characters that could appear in Episode 9, besides the main cast. For starters, Queenie is mentioned, and many reacted like this: "Oh my god, we're gonna see Queenie again." This greatly increases the possibility of having more flashback scenes like the one we saw in Episode 8 to better explain the past of the Digital Circus. But the situation isn't that simple. Some say, "I hope this means more flashbacks of the original cast," though there's also another possibility: that the voice actress is included in the final list only because of her small role in Episode 8, since it's highly likely that the list includes the cast for both Episode 8 and 9. Still, we were told there was still a strong chance that Queenie appears in the next episode. In fact, Digital Circus fans noticed something important. It was also leaked that Scratch's voice actor would be present in Episode 9. And what does this mean? That not only would we finally hear Scratch speak in Episode 9, which would help reveal more about his past and his role in Digital Circus, but it also heavily increases the probability of seeing Queenie again in the finale. But how do we know this with more certainty? It turns out both characters are very connected to the early days of the circus, something we already saw in Episode 8, and there is an even more key detail. In Episode 7, we are told that Scratch was the first circus member to abstract. Kinger confirms this directly during the scene where they confront Kane. And what does this tell us? That if Scratch is going to have voice lines in an Episode 9 flashback, that memory has to occur in a time when Queenie was still in the circus before she also abstracted. But that's not all. There is also another abstracted character who could have an important role in the finale. What if I told you that Kofmo could also return in Episode 9? If you don't believe me, I will now show you some of the clues. For starters, Kofmo was already hinted at as being important in one of the most recent teaser images for the finale. In that Episode 9 poster, you can see a mysterious photo of him hanging on the wall right next to Kinger. And although it wasn't clear what that image meant at the time, there were more hidden clues. In that same teaser, a mug of hot chocolate also appears. And why is that mug important? Because we had already seen it before in the series. Besides appearing recently in the cafe scene of Episode 8, it also appeared in an Episode 7 flashback where Kofmo, Jax, and Ribbit were holding that exact same mug. That object has been used several times as a symbol of Jax's connection with his old circus friends. And here comes the interesting part. We know Ribbit will appear in Episode 9 because we already saw him in the trailer. So if one of those friends returns, it is highly likely that the other, Kofmo, will also play a role. Furthermore, there is another important detail in the timeline. Kofmo abstracted at the beginning of the pilot episode, long after Ribbit did. That means in the circus's past, both were active at the same time. But will we really see an important scene with Kofmo in the finale? There are more clues. In another episode 9 teaser, a mysterious figure is shown in the distance with a strange silhouette. This suggests there could be a new character or someone returning unexpectedly. And not only that, there was also a very curious clue in one of the Digital Circus merch videos. Normally, those videos have nothing to do with the official story, but this one was different because there we heard Kofmo speak for the first time, and right before that scene, Kane says something very important, that everything that happens from that moment on is canon. Hey, what's up guys? In other words, it is part of the real story. When you put that scene together with all the other clues about Kofmo, everything points to him potentially having an important role in episode 9. And now comes the most interesting part. The following spoilers don't come from leaks, they come directly from the series creator, Goose Works. It turns out that on Tumblr, a fan asked her what we could expect from the series finale. They even asked her to leave a message for the fans before the premiere, and her response was quite curious. This part is a bit heavy, so be prepared. With that phrase, Gooseworks made it clear that something in episode 9 could be hard for fans to watch. But what exactly is that difficult scene? It turns out she herself had already talked about these kinds of moments before. In fact, since 2022, Gooseworks publicly commented on an idea she always wanted to use for a series finale. She said something like this: "I've always wanted to make a dystopian series in a dark and brutal world where a group of characters fights against a big problem, but suddenly that problem disappears." And this connects perfectly with what we saw in episode 8 because Kane simply disappears at the end. Although the Digital Circus world didn't look exactly like that idea at the start, everything changes the moment Kane ceases to exist within the system. After his disappearance, we see how the digital world transforms. It becomes dark, empty, colorless, lacking normalcy, exactly like that brutal world Gooseworks talked about. But the heaviest part comes next. In that same idea, she explained that the characters do not manage to fix anything. There is no solution, no victory. They simply accept their fate in that dark world, and the story ends without a happy resolution. And this matches closely with what we already saw in the episode 9 trailer, where the circus members seem to be struggling to adapt to their new reality with no clear hope for a happy ending. So everything points to episode 9 potentially having a pretty harsh ending, one where not everything is resolved and where things don't go as we expect. But recently, fans have been very upset with Glitch and Gooseworks to the point of endangering the premiere of Digital Circus episode 9. Watch this video on my channel to discover the new Digital Circus drama.